Alright, so we're going to be creating a anchor chart. My class is on page 28. Make sure with your teacher that you are on page 28 or whatever other page you guys are on. Make sure that you write down the TEKS and you write down our title, which is adaptation. Right? The TEKS say explain variation, and underline that word because it's key, within a population of species by comparing external features, behaviors, or physiology of organisms that enhance their survival, such as migration, hibernation, or storage of food in a bulb. 711B. Make sure that you write all of this down. You can pause this video at any time. Let me start by saying that variation has to do with the variety within a population. So my classes took a look at rabbits, okay, and how rabbits and also moths and plants and all sorts of organisms out there look a little bit different, but they still fall under the same category. All right, so rabbits can have the ears that are droopy or the ears that are up high, but yet they're still rabbits. Or we're talking about shades of patterns or colors that an animal might have, like zebras, but yet they're still zebras. Or different types of plants that have same leaf style, but they have a difference in height. Okay, so these are all variations within a species. So we're going to be taking a look at external features, behaviors, and the physiology of organisms. Some of these are tough words that we rarely use, like physiology, but I'll explain those as we go through. And we're always talking about survival. Okay, an animal and a plant don't get to go to Walmart. They don't get to go to a farmer's market and just pick out what they want. All right? They have to fight. They have to go through every day to figure out what they're going to do for food to survive. All right? So that's just a small reminder as humans, we don't have to do all that. We have shelters, we have things set up in our society that say, hey, this is where you can come get food if you don't have any. Animals and plants can't do that. They don't do that. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. You should write down this. When environments change, plants and animals get, and we're going to write down mad. When environments change, when you have a big shift in the environment, in the ecosystem, the plants have the following options. Okay? So they're going to get mad. They're going to pick one of these three. Okay? They're going to migrate. They have that option of migrating, and migrating means that they're moving from one area to another. Okay, so they're going to leave their area in search for food, in search of a new area with the conditions, with the food, with the habitat that they are looking for. Or they can adapt, and that means that they can change, or that they are going to the animal, the species that we're talking about, or the organism or the plant that we're mentioning is going to be favorable. That the animals, that the plants that have the right traits are going to survive more, and they're going to reproduce, and then they are going to take lead. They're going to be the majority. So for instance, if your class has already talked about the moths adapted to the situation that changed, right? So we had these factories that started polluting more, and we had peppered moths that were in that area. Well, the white peppered moths with the black spots started to decrease because as an entire species, okay, and we're talking as an entire species, as an entire population, they couldn't survive in that area because there was a change. Okay? So the black peppered moths with the white specks were the ones that ultimately were the majority. Okay? So as a species, they adapted. Right? Or if they don't migrate, move away, if they don't adapt, and the population or the variation within the population doesn't adapt, then their last option is, sadly, that they die. Okay, so they have three options. They migrate, they adapt, or they die. Next, you're going to write down behavior. Okay, and in parentheses, I went ahead and put how it acts. So when we're talking about behavior of an animal, okay, and that was mentioned up here, we're going to be explaining behavior. We're going to be explaining what's going on and comparing the behavior. When we talk about behavior, that's what a plant or that's what an animal does, how it acts. Okay? Let's talk about physiology. That's a tough one. Okay? The word physiology is mentioning, it's the study of internal and external functions of living things. So we're taking a look at what's going on inside of the animal. What are the biochemical things that are going on? What are the processes going on inside of an organism that's helping it survive? Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at what's going on the inside of an organism that is going to make this organism, animal or plant, survive. So what's the function of what's going on the inside? Okay, so we already mentioned behaviors. Okay, and those behaviors, I'd like to go back and give you some examples. Behaviors include migration. Behaviors include hunting as a pack, like the wolves do it. And another example would be hibernation. Okay, so I'm going to write, you should be writing down the word hibernation. And that has to do with going into deep sleep. Okay, and when we go to deep sleep or we're sleeping at night, we're slowing down the functions. We're slowing down this physiology to the point where we can survive. But when an animal hibernates or a plant hibernates, they're slowing down the functions. They're not completely dead, okay? They're slowing down the functions in order to survive cold temperatures, or maybe there's a lack of food, maybe there's a reduced number of food, okay, available. So bears hibernate, and lots of of plants, types of plants hibernate, especially like trees. Okay, so I wrote down some Z's to know that you're talking about hibernation and sleep. Okay, next we're going to write down the word external features. Okay, and in class we talked about what the word exit means. If I say exit the building, that means go on the outside. Okay, if we look at the external features of something, we're looking at the outside features of an animal, the outside features of a plant. So that has to do with the face, it has to do with the snout, it has to do with the shape, it has to do with the fur, it has to do with paws, and things like that. Alright, next, we're going to draw a bulb. Okay, so this is my attempt to draw an onion with layers. Okay, so I drew some layers, and I drew a middle of the plant, okay, and a sprout coming out of the middle of the plant. So a bulb is the resting stage of a plant where it is formed underground. So I'm kind of going to put like a little floor right here, or soil I should say, soil, and then this is like the top, the leaves that we can actually see. Okay, you can draw some grass if you need to draw some grass. Alright, so the bulb is storage of food for the plant that is formed underground. Okay, so we can talk about onions. Onions are a great example of this. So it is a bulb. It is literally underground, saving the food. It's always formed underground until this top part of the plant, the leaves, come out of the ground. Okay, and then we're able to pull out the onions. Alright, the last thing is I'm just going to show you the rest of this. Okay, just in case you missed something. And remember, you can always rewind and go back. Alright? We'll be talking more about adaptations in a future video, so make sure that you remember. Alright? Remember to write down everything here. These bulbs can sometimes turn into flowers, and they have a storage for the plant. Alright? You can have a future plant that's in here, okay, that finally sprouts out, and there's a flower that ends up there. It can be onions, and so on. So the roots actually grow from the bottom. So if you want to draw some roots at the bottom, you're more than welcome to. Okay? Make sure you wrote down all of the TEKS, and that's it.